Welcome to the Teacher Experience. We are your hosts, Miss Wild and Miss Dearman. If you haven't already, please do click off and follow us on Spotify, Amazon, or YouTube, or all three if you wish. You can also leave us a review as well, and it just means we can reach as many people as possible and help as many teachers as we can. So today we have Jodie from Busy Teachers Club as our special guest. The Busy Teachers Club is your one-stop shop for CPD resources and beautiful stationery. Jodie has been teaching for over 14 years and is an SLE or Specialist Leader in Education, along with being a head of English in an inner city secondary school for over 10 years. So without further delay, welcome to the Teacher Experience, Jodie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So we start every podcast with a what went well and an EBI, so an even better if. So could you tell us what your what went well is from this week?
Yes, so my what went well this week has got to be linked to the GCSE, the start of the GCSE English exams. So they were this week. We've had literature paper 2 and language paper 1. And I would say what went well this week is the energy around those, kind of being in the in the exam hall, preparing students beforehand. Them kind of really stepping up to the plate was really lovely to see, actually. So I would definitely say that that's the what went well. Even better if I wasn't extremely exhausted, maybe, can I say that? I think the build up to the GCSE exams starting, being head of core, has been quite intense. And so it kind of reached its peak. So whilst that was my what went well, it was also simultaneously my even better if, because I've been drained to the core.
Yeah, that's such a good what went well and EBI, and it's so true, isn't it? We get so, especially as secondary school teachers that obviously have such a big influence in exams, we get so excited about the kids actually finally sitting the exams and the energy around it, and really getting involved in hyping up the exam and making sure they're ready. I'm so proud of my year 11s. And I know for their English exam, a lot of them came out with very tired hands, but were also really proud of themselves for getting it done. So yeah, really good what went well, but absolutely the even better if it is exhausting as secondary school year 11 teachers, because we are just on it. It's absolute, I don't want to say cram, but it's just high level energy and it does take it out of you. So happy half term for sure.
I can completely relate to that as well. So my role in school is assistant Senko, and I look after a lot of pupils that have dyslexia. So there's quite a lot of anxiety around the English exams and kind of being that positive person in the morning, because I meet them before the exams and after, trying to be that positive person in the morning and having that big energy, like you said. It is exhausting in itself for us. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was great.
Equally a beautiful moment when they come out of those exams and say that they're happy, which is just the loveliest moment as a teacher, isn't it? So thank you for sharing. What we'd like to do now is understand what your typical day looks like.
Okay, so my typical day, if I'm on it, because I'm not always, but let's say like a really great typical day where I'm actually, firing on all cylinders. I on a Sunday like to prep my lunches and think about my teas and think about my outfits, which sounds ridiculous, but in the mornings, I have very limited cognitive ability. So if I can reduce that load in any way by just not having to make any decisions, I grab my lunch from the fridge. I put my clothes on that are already laid out. Like, it just means that I've got more to give at school. So I would say that it starts off usually with quite robotically, just kind of doing the same things as I normally would. I get up relatively late. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not, chilling on the lazy river or anything, but I don't get into school at any time before 7:30. Like, 7:45, 8 o'clock is kind of like my time to kind of get there, really. These days, it didn't used to be like that, but it is now. And straight away when I get into the building, I check my emails, just something low key, kind of, get my brain working. Check in with the team, because I've got a team of between 16 and 20, if you count the SLT members as well that teach English too. So I will check in with the team, answer any questions, and just get organised for my day, really. And then my timetable is quite heavy teaching load wise. So I have a full year 11 class, who I see 4 times a week. Same for year 10. I have 2 year 7 classes that I see for a few hours a week as well. I teach respect. I teach life skills. So I've got quite a big teaching load. So it usually then is, I don't blink until the end of the day, because that goes really fast because I'm in the classroom, and then I leave within half an hour. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't tend to stay in the building much longer than half an hour after school, unless obviously there's a meeting. And then home to comfies and Netflix, like most people, I imagine.
Thank you for sharing that. So interestingly, something I wanted to pick up on, we know as secondary school teachers that obviously when you're a head of department, you get a reduced timetable in order to be head of department. But as always, that reduced timetable isn't that much, considering how much work you have to do as a head of department. So I was just wondering, how do you manage the workload of a head of department and a busy timetable?
So firstly, I have to say that I love being in the classroom. It's one of the reasons why I've not chosen to progress into senior leadership, because that reduces right down. It's why I got into teaching, and it's why I will stay in teaching, because I'm teaching. So, that I would say, is the kind of the first thing. I do enjoy that element of my timetable. And it definitely is reduced in comparison to, say, my seconds in department and, the teachers within my department. I definitely do have more free time on my timetable than they do. But I think a big part of it is experience, to be completely honest. How I operate now versus how I operated 8 years ago, 10 years ago when I started in this role is completely different. All the things are in place, all of the I don't know, the things that are needed for the department to function seamlessly have already been embedded. So we are developing in terms of curriculum and pedagogy and all of those things all the time, but the fundamentals, like the foundations of the department, are just there. So I can get things done in the work day, in the school day, in my free time. I'm lucky in that sense, I think, because I have just got quite a lot of experience in one role. It's quite unusual, I think, for people to just kind of stay in one position, but I find that it lends itself extremely well to work-life balance.
Thank you. It's so great for our listeners to hear that your little hints and tricks about getting yourself ready for the week and doing that prep on the Sunday to make sure your cognitive load is reduced in the week. It's such great little tips for everyone, because it is a constant struggle with teachers being able to balance that work life and being really productive within the working day, and having the discipline to be like, no, actually, I'm going to leave within half an hour of the school day finishing. So it's great little tips for people to listen to. I'm really similar to you in a sense that Senko don't teach at all. And I'm assistant Senko at the moment, and I'm just not sure if that's the route that I want to go, because I love being in the classroom. Like, teaching science is the calmest part of my day. It's the best part of my day, being with the kids. So I'm really similar to you in that. I'm like, I'd hate to lose all of that. And that would be my next step up. But being with the kids is the best bit. So I'm curious, did you always know you wanted to be a teacher?
Yes, I was one of those annoying people who kind of already knew from really young. Well, I had 2 options, actually. It was either that or be a midwife, and I realised very quickly that I was extremely squeamish, so midwifery was immediately off the table. So I definitely knew I wanted to be a teacher after that, and just kind of pursued that relentlessly, really. I never kind of veered off path. I did a lot of experience in primary, and that's what I actually wanted to do originally. I wanted to be a primary school teacher, but I actually didn't get on the course. I didn't get accepted onto the course, which was very competitive. And whilst I was a high flying performer in secondary school, I took my foot off the gas in college. I'm not going to lie. So that didn't help. So didn't reach my potential in college, I would say, which kind of veered me onto a different path, like, because I was steadfast, kind of moving towards, I'm going to be a primary school teacher. I'm going to be my version of Mrs. Norburn, who taught me in year 4. That's who I aspired to be. And that was the end of that, really. So when I got rejected, I was like, what am I going to do now? You know, like, what am I going to do with myself, kind of thing. I knew education was still the path I wanted to, you know, be on. So I had a little look around at some jobs. I was looking for a TA job in primary, but came across this SEND TA role in a Catholic school, small Catholic school, 700 kids. And it was literally the best thing that I did, I think, because it got me onto what I now see as the right path. I mean, people who know me now will be like, you, a primary school teacher, are you joking? Your last 5 minutes. So I actually do feel like grateful for like that little kind of, you know, change in path, I suppose. Loved being a SEND TA, loved being in a secondary school. So then I applied to be I went on to then do my degree, basically. So after that, I did an English degree at Salford University, English language and literature combined. And then I went on to do a PGCE in English, teaching English at secondary school. If I was to do it again, I think because I loved the PGCE so much more than I did the English degree. So sorry, actually, I didn't do the TA thing after college. I did it after my English degree. And the only reason I did my English degree was because I was told that if I didn't want to do the Bachelor of Education, I needed, if I could, a core subject would be useful. So I was like, okay, well, English was the best out of the bunch, kind of thing. So that's kind of the path that I went down. And I didn't love it, to be honest. I didn't, you know, it didn't ignite my kind of passion for the working world. So if I was to do it again, I think I would want to do like the 4-year teaching degree for secondary, but of course I didn't know that. So I think it's just a case of, you just kind of have to bumble along, don't you, and just be like, oh, what am I doing? No one really knows, like, to just kind of get you to where you are supposed to be, which is definitely what happened for me, I would say.
I'm such a great believer in everything happens for a reason. I, similar to you, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher before going to university. And then when I got to university, Miss Wild and I went to the University of Bath, incredible university. They were amazing. They presented us with so many different career opportunities. And I was really curious by like the graduate schemes and things like that. They presented us with so many careers fairs, and I kind of got swept away in that and ended up doing a graduate scheme in London. But within 2 years, I found myself back to my original plan, which was when I was 16, I just knew I wanted to be a teacher. Even my year 10 work experience was a teacher. So I always knew. But I'm so glad I had that experience, because I ended up back where I was meant to be, which was to be a teacher. So it's nice to hear your story, because like you said, maybe that secondary was always meant to be your route. You just didn't know at the time. So your story kind of led you to the right place, and you're obviously doing amazing in your career. So it was obviously all worked out. I also did PGCE. I loved it. However, I trained during 2020, so the COVID years. And I don't think I had the full experience of that, which was such a shame, because I hear so much great feedback from the PGCE route. I wasn't even allowed to go into university. I didn't have one day in university at all throughout my whole year. And it still cost me £9,000. I know. So obviously you've got so many different roles within the school. You've obviously established such a great routine to make that manageable. And then of course on the side, you've got the busy teacher club. I'm really interested in hearing what inspired you to start this in your crazy, already busy life.
So Busy Teachers Club is a kind of little labour of love project, really. That's kind of how it started. I have never, in 15 years of teaching, found a planner that does everything that I wanted it to do. So I had an idea, but had absolutely zero clue about how to bring that to life. So I was lucky enough really to link up with a couple of girls who were already in that world of creating products and stationery products in particular. And they supported me with the growth basically of Busy Teachers Club. I was really, I think, well, I'll start by saying how I've got time. And I think I've kind of already touched on that already. It's because I'm an incredibly ambitious person. Like, I rose through the ranks really quickly in the first few years of my teaching career. I was desperate. I was like, what next? What next? What next? Paper chase. I was chasing the money. I was chasing the status. I wanted people to think I was good, driven by ego and driven by the wrong things, essentially, for me personally. So I progressed into a responsibility point within 1 year. Then I was second in department within 3, and then I was head of department within 5, and all in the same school. And then I was like, okay, let's just calm down for a minute, because I knew at that point that I didn't necessarily want to kind of progress into senior leadership. So I bedded into this role, which I love. I really, really do love my job. I really do. But like I say, over time, having been in this role now for a decade, you do get itchy feet still. I do still have that drive in me to do more, to try new things. I'm a Sagittarius as well, girls. So I do, I need that kind of like something else, to kind of like fill that gap almost. And so that's how I've got the time to do it, because I feel confident in my role. But it's also why I wanted to do it, because I wanted something more, and I wasn't sure that the answer to that was in education in the kind of traditional sense. So we started Busy Teachers Club with just the planners. And I say just the planners, they are the main thing. They are something that I'm super proud of. Wellbeing, teacher wellbeing was starting to become a buzzword that was kind of bandied around everywhere. And don't get me wrong, I am thoroughly pleased that we're talking about it, because we must. But it very quickly became a finger pointing situation where I feel like, I am a strong believer in us taking responsibility for our own well-being. I definitely think that the schools have a part to play, the education system has a part to play, but we're not in control of that. So if we put all of our hopes in them looking after us, then we're destined to not get to where we want to be. So I wanted to create something, the planners, but also the other products that I have, to support teachers with pointing that finger inwardly, thinking about what they can do to support their own well-being. So within the Planner of Dreams, for example, there is a daily well-being check-in. It's a small thing, it's a small addition to the planner, but what it allows me to do personally, because I was getting to the point where I was like, God, I feel exhausted, I feel drained, I feel sad, I feel, like I don't really want to be here, like in work at the moment. Why do I feel like that? Because we just get on with it. We just are on this hamster wheel constantly, that if we don't check in with ourselves regularly, it's like, how did we get here? Whereas in the planner, you are encouraged to give yourself a smiley face or a sad face on each day. And then at the end of the week, reflect and think, right, where's my balance? Have I had more positive days than bad days? Have I had more bad days than good days? And if your balance is off, you're encouraged then to visit the mindfulness section at the back, which takes you through kind of methodically and clearly and carefully, like a reflection process, so that you can put things in place so that it doesn't spiral out of control. Because I think the big issue with burnout is that people get there and they don't recognize the signs before it's too late, essentially. So the planner is a planner. It does all of the things that you would want a planner to do organizationally, but it also has these kind of, this thread, really, this golden thread that runs all the way through it, that supports us to get the best out of ourselves, but also to feel happy in our job. Because what's the point if we're not? Like, why do it? Why do that to yourself if you're not enjoying it, if you're not happy? So the creation of the planner then spurred me on to kind of think about other things that I could do to support teachers. So I created a a course with a couple of my peers who are incredible education leaders. And we did a self-reflective course really called Ditch Burnout and Thrive. So it takes you through step by step, module by module, things you can do for yourself, coaching models, thinking about your professional behaviors, thinking about your boundaries, like all of these things are covered and more. And then that led, and I'll stop talking a minute because I know this is a long answer. That led then to the creation of the wellbeing retreats that I did. I do in kind of conjunction with some holistic practitioners. So they are teacher workshop based. So we look at, lots of things linked to kind of productivity, work-life balance, workload, dealing with that. But also there's meditation, there's sound healing, there's yoga, there's, a night stay in a gorgeous hotel, like, just kind of a lovely experience really to reset before kind of going back into the trenches, if you like.
That was a really, really in-depth explanation of the Busy Teachers Club, and it's fantastic to hear all of the different areas you've gone into and how much help you are providing for teachers out there that love their job. Teachers don't go into teaching for any other reason than the love for the job. And we've mentioned a few times today, like being in the classroom is so important and it's what we love. But sometimes we do need a little bit of help with how to manage our well-being at the same time. And interestingly, you said about, yes, schools have a bit of responsibility to help us with well-being, of course, but actually you've echoed the same response we've had with a few of our guests, actually. So we've spoken to Jen from the Inner Sanctuary Yoga. You've just mentioned yoga as well. We spoke to Andy Russell about fitness. We spoke to Rowena Hicks, who reached burnout. And actually, they're all echoing the same thing as you are about making sure that we're looking at ourselves and about what we can do to help our own well-being. And actually, if people reach out and use all of those resources that you're providing and going on, I love the idea of this retreat, by the way. That sounds incredible. But using all of those resources to help ourselves, it then comes back to the fact that we are better teachers in the classroom because if we look after ourselves, we can look after the children. So that all sounds absolutely incredible. I'm just going to flick back for a second, just because you said about your work-life balance in the classroom or in school is really good because you've got everything sorted in your department and you're at a really good place that actually you can have a good work-life balance, because all of the important things such as curriculum, although that's consistently developing, and assessments, etc., is in place. So I just wondered, how long have you been in the same job role in the same school in order to get to that position?
So I've never worked at another school. So this is the only school I've ever worked at since being a qualified teacher. So very lucky, I do know. And it's an incredible school. It's an incredible school. I feel valued, I feel heard, I feel respected, I feel successful. And I think that is not everybody's experience. So I think that in itself contributes to me being able to have that work-life balance, because I'm not spending expelling too much energy thinking and worrying about not being happy there, so I definitely think that helps. I've been in this job role, head of English, for 10 years. And for all of that time up until the last 2 years, I was full-time working 5 days. And then with the business, increasing in success, I decided to drop down to 4 days, which, can I just say, is a game changer. Like, I actually would go as far as to say it's changed my life, like working 4 days in school. I actually think now I could go to retirement in education. I don't think I could say that if I was still working 5 days, because like most people, my mental health is up and down, and I've had moments of real struggle. And this has been something that's kind of almost brought me back to life, I guess, in a way, because I don't feel like anymore. I'm not saying the key to work-life balance is dropping your days, but just for me and my experience, I feel like it's had a huge impact, because it's not like 5 days is such a long period of time, back to back, back to back, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're nowhere near Friday still, Whereas now, the end is in sight a bit sooner. I have longer to recover. I have longer to recoup. So that also definitely helps. And I will say this, I care less about what people think. I spent the first, I don't know, close to a decade, I would say, being entirely driven almost by what people thought of me. And, including I was the first person in the building. I was there with the caretaker at 6:30 every single day. I was one of the last to leave. I was putting in hours and hours and hours and hours of graft, because I thought that that's what made me a good teacher. That's what other people would think makes me a good teacher. And as time has progressed, and as I've kind of, I guess, grown in confidence as an educator, I kind of now back myself a bit more. I know that I don't need to be in work at 6:30 every single day and leave at 6:30 and then work all weekend to be good at my job. So I think that's also important, kind of focusing on what you think actually, and what internally is going to make you a good practitioner. If you are someone who needs to brush up on their subject knowledge, and you're going to listen to a few podcasts on Jekyll and Hyde at the weekend, then that's what you need to do. And only you need to know that. Only you need to do that. You don't need to then be kind of like, right, guys, I've spent all of this time, look at everything that I've done. That doesn't give you your value. You have to kind of internally know that. And I don't think that's something that comes in your first 2 years or 3 years of teaching. I do think it's an experience thing. I think you've got to live it to kind of get to that point, would probably be what I would say about that.
Thank you so much for sharing. There's so many things that you've said throughout the last half an hour that are things that I can relate to, and I'm sure Miss Wild can as well. If we just go back to when you said at the start that you feel like you're a very driven person, I can completely relate to that as well. Driven by, at the start of my career, definitely driven by money, and climbing the ladder was definitely a goal of mine. Having that next step up was really important. And I actually always felt like I had to have something to look forward to as well. So once I got one TLR, I was like, right, what's next? What's next? And then also the value of myself was driven by a lot of what other people thought around me. So I was the same. I was first in the door, last out, because that's what I thought would have meant I was a good teacher, or would have led me to be a better teacher, led me to the next promotion. And it's actually taken me quite a long time to, like you said, have value in yourself, and understanding yourself and knowing what's right for you to make you a good practitioner is so important. And it is completely different for everyone. Completely different. So if you're saying that 4 days a week was working for you, other people might feel the same and other people might feel different. It's just working out what is right for you.
So we've got the planners. We also have matching notebooks, but they are just plain paper inside, guys. Nothing special about those other than the glorious covers, of course. And then we have other little bits like tote bags and things like that. But the main product stationery wise is the planner. And then I also have the Ditch Burnout and Thrive course, which is a self-reflective course to kind of get you to a better kind of in a better mindset within teaching. And then also the retreats. I'm also doing a little bit of work with Jen Foster as well at the minute. I'm one of her ECT mentors for the launch of her upcoming ECT studio. So I'm kind of doing bits for in other worlds as well, kind of in my capacity as Busy Teachers Club. But yeah, they're the three main things for me.
Amazing. And if our listeners are thinking, oh, I really am really interested in that, where's the best place to access all this information about what the Busy Teacher Club has to offer?
I'd say Instagram, probably. That's where I hang out the most. You can drop me an email, but it'll be longer. It'll take longer to get back to you than it will on Instagram. So Instagram's probably the best bet, and it's at Busy Teachers Club.
Amazing, thank you. And just the Ditch Burnout and Thrive course, is that an online course or is that an in-person course?
It's online, so you will download an app as part of the course, and you can do it on a tablet, you can do it on your phone, and there's an introduction video and then some reading to do. It's a reading-based course with activities that you can then implement into your teaching world as you see fit. Because the reason why I didn't want to do it as a live course was because, as we've mentioned a few times today, everybody's different. Everybody operates in different ways. Everybody has different kind of timescales on things. So I wanted it to just be an internal reflection at a pace that suits the person.
That's brilliant. And I like that idea about doing it online so people can do it at the pace that suits them. That's really, really good. And then the retreat, is that one day, one night, or is it longer, shorter? Can you give us a little bit of detail there?
So I've run a few now. So there's a daytime one that just includes, there's no stay over. It's still a beautiful venue, of course. Everything is aesthetically pleasing, which helps. And we do the nighttime one, which is 1 day and 1 night at a lovely hotel. We did the last one at the Inside by Melia Hotel in Liverpool, and it was amazing. Just a real mixture of professionals at different points in their career, who I'm still in touch with now, who are regularly updating me on how they're implementing things from the retreat into their kind of classroom practice and their teaching world. So yeah, just a really amazing, wholesome experience to kind of boost you into the next half term or the next term. The best place to find out information about upcoming ones is the website, so busyteachersclub.co.uk, and there's a tab on there that says retreats, so just click on there, and whenever we have dates coming up, that will be where they will be.
That sounds so exciting and definitely something we would get involved in. Amazing. So we finish every episode with a research bite for our listeners. So could you share the best bit of research or advice for our teachers?
So I think a real big game changer, but small output, you don't need to do a huge amount to kind of get the results with this, is all the research on productivity. Daniel Pink is a really good example of someone who does a lot of research into this. But what happens is when we operate generally as a human being, especially as a teacher human being, I will add, we like to operate on all cylinders constantly, 100% of the time. And if we don't, it becomes almost like a reason for negative self-talk. Oh, I should have been able to finish that. All right, we're hard on ourselves if we're not 100% of the time. But that's simply scientifically not how the brain works. And so by doing that, you're actually working against nature, dare I say. So what I like to do is I like to plan my day and my tasks according to my productivity levels. We peak and trough. We know that. We know the phrase peaks and troughs, but yet we don't work with it, and we should. So, for example, like I mentioned earlier, I always start my day with checking my emails. That's what we call a soft task. It's something that doesn't require any kind of critical thinking, decision making. It's a way of warming up to the day. And I do exactly the same. I bookend my day with that task. Soft end to the day. That might be making a positive phone call home. It's something small, but that you can do without much consideration or, active thinking kind of thing. In the middle of the day, then, you will have peaks and troughs. Now, my peaks will probably be at different times to both of yours. It's completely personal. Some people have the same peaks at every time, every day. So, right, as soon as I get in, once I've done my soft task, every day for 3 hours, then I'm firing on all cylinders. That might be how some people are. I'm not. I'm a day by day kind of gal. So what I like to do is have 2 lists on my desk. So things that I can do when I'm at peak productivity and things that I could do when I'm not. So peak productivity tasks are things that are usually deadline driven, things that I know need to be done and that need that critical brain. And my trough tasks, might need to think of a better name for that because it sounds gross, but my trough tasks are things that kind of can be done at any point. It might be organizing my curriculum leader folder, it might be printing off some schemes of work, it might be doing a learning walk, something that it just doesn't require the same level of brain. And what that does, because I fluidly use that kind of model. So it'll be 11 o'clock on a Tuesday and I'll think, right, I've got a free, what am I feeling? I'm a peak, I'm a trough, I'm peak, right, let's do this. And it helps massively because it means I'm no longer kind of and having another stick to beat myself with, I should have been able to do this, I should have been able to do that. I'm working with what I know to be scientifically true about my brain. And as a result of that, I feel more successful. I'm no longer kind of kicking myself when I'm in a trough state. And I end up getting more done, because if you try to force yourself to be in peak when you're not, you end up reaching burnout. You'll burn yourself out. You'll get to the point where you don't want to do anything. Right, forget it then. I'm not doing anything because I can't now, And so it really does help to keep things kind of constantly ticking in a positive way. So yeah, I would say that I love the research around productivity.
Wow, that is such a fantastic model, and actually not one that I have been made aware of yet. And I think that's amazing. I think a lot of teachers believe or have been taught to believe that they need to give 100% all the time. And the more that they give, the better it is. So you can more marking is always better. Doing teacher-led activities 100% of the lesson is always better. I think it's really hard for teachers to unlearn that. So having access to this research to show that actually this would increase your productivity is amazing. So thank you for sharing that. You said it was Daniel Pink that did a lot of this research. Where can the listeners access this? Is it a book or is it like a research paper?
He's written a number of books, so that would be where I would start.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The advice you have given and the information about all the resources you provide through the Busy Teachers Club has been outstanding. And that last bit of research, I personally will be implementing myself after half term. So thank you so much for everything you shared with us today.
Thank you to all of our listeners for coming back again, and we look forward to seeing you next episode.